Jacob, the grandson of Abraham, was blessed with 12 sons, who would become the heads of the tribes of Israel. But of all his sons, Joseph was his father's favorite. Jacob gifted Joseph a coat of many colors, a symbol of his love, but also a reminder to his brothers that Joseph held a special place in their father's heart. Joseph was a young dreamer, and God gave him visions of his future, a future that seemed to promise leadership and authority over his family. When Joseph shared his dreams of his family bowing before him, his brother's jealousy turned to bitterness. This tension set the stage for a family rift, a betrayal that would change the course of their lives. As Joseph approached his brothers in the field, he was filled with hope, unaware of their growing resentment. But their bitterness had turned to hatred, and they seized him, ripping off his coat of many colors, a symbol of his father's love. Driven by jealousy, they cast him into an empty pit. Joseph's cries echoed, but their hearts were hardened. Soon, a caravan of traders appeared in the distance, and in a moment of cruel opportunity, the brothers sold him as a slave, sending Joseph on a journey far from his family and all he had known. They watched as he was taken away, feeling relieved yet haunted by what they had done. Meanwhile, Joseph looked back, heartbroken and afraid, wondering if he'd ever return home. Brought to Egypt as a slave, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, a captain of Pharaoh's guard. But despite the harsh circumstances, Joseph remained faithful and diligent, trusting that God was with him. Day by day, he worked in Potiphar's house with integrity, proving himself trustworthy. His hard work and loyalty did not go unnoticed. Potiphar saw Joseph's gift for management and placed him in charge of his entire household. Through God's blessing, everything Joseph touched prospered. Though he was far from home and still a servant, Joseph's rise in Potiphar's house offered a glimmer of hope and purpose. But adversity returned in the form of false accusation. Potiphar's wife, drawn to Joseph, tried to deceive him, yet Joseph's integrity kept him from betrayal. Rejected and angry, she accused him falsely, and despite his innocence, Potiphar believed her. Joseph was thrown into prison, a dark place where he had every reason to despair. Yet, Joseph's faith remained steadfast. In the quiet solitude of his cell, he continued to trust in God's plan. And even there, the Lord was with him. Soon, he found favor with the prison warden, who placed Joseph in charge of other prisoners. Though he was surrounded by walls and shadows, Joseph's light continued to shine. While in prison, Joseph encountered two of Pharaoh's servants, the cupbearer and the baker, each troubled by mysterious dreams. Seeing their distress, Joseph asked them about their dreams, offering a listening ear and a compassionate heart. With God's help, Joseph interpreted their dreams accurately. To the cupbearer, he gave hope, foretelling his return to Pharaoh's service. To the baker, he spoke truth, revealing that his life would soon end. Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him upon release, hoping this act of kindness might lead to his own freedom. Yet even as the days passed with no word, Joseph remained faithful, trusting that God's timing was perfect. 2 years later, Pharaoh was troubled by dreams that no one could interpret. He dreamed of 7 fat cows devoured by 7 lean ones, and 7 full heads of grain consumed by 7 withered heads. No wise man or magician could explain it. Then, the cupbearer remembered Joseph and told Pharaoh of his gift for interpreting dreams. Joseph was summoned from the prison, and standing before Pharaoh, he acknowledged that only God could provide the answer. Through Joseph, God revealed the meaning of Pharaoh's dreams. 7 years of abundance would be followed by 7 years of famine. Seeing Joseph's wisdom, Pharaoh appointed him as governor of Egypt, entrusting him with the task of saving the land. In one day, Joseph went from prisoner to ruler, fulfilling the destiny he once saw in his dreams. Through Joseph, Egypt became a place of refuge, and his leadership brought hope in a time of despair. God's favor was upon him, and Joseph felt the weight of his position, yet also the purpose behind his journey. All his trials and suffering had led to this moment of redemption and service. In the midst of the famine, Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain, not knowing that the man they would face was their brother Joseph. When his brothers arrived, they bowed before him, just as he had once dreamed. But they did not recognize him, dressed as he was in Egyptian robes and authority. Joseph's heart was torn, for these were the men who had betrayed him, yet they were also his family. Hiding his identity, he tested them to see if their hearts had changed. He accused them of being spies, watching their reactions. And as they spoke of their regret and pain, Joseph saw that time and hardship had softened their spirits. Overcome with emotion, Joseph could no longer hide his identity. He ordered everyone else from the room, then spoke to his brothers in their own language, his voice trembling with emotion.
"I'm Joseph, your brother,"
he said. They were stunned, fear gripping their hearts as they remembered their betrayal. But Joseph reassured them, saying,
"Do not be afraid. What you intended for harm, God intended for good, to save many lives."
His words were filled with forgiveness and love. In that moment, Joseph chose compassion over revenge, seeing his suffering as part of God's greater plan. News of Joseph's family reached Pharaoh, who invited Jacob and his sons to settle in Egypt. And so, Joseph was reunited with his father, Jacob, who had believed him lost forever. The family embraced, tears of joy and relief marking their reunion. In Egypt, Joseph provided them with a place to live, sheltering them from the famine. Through forgiveness and reconciliation, Joseph restored his family, fulfilling the purpose for which God had prepared him. His journey, from favored son to slave to ruler, had come full circle. And in his story, God's faithfulness was revealed, a story of redemption that would inspire generations.
Thank you for watching. What did you learn from this story? Let's know in the comment section. Please subscribe, like and share.